Hi, we're here today with Robin Chase, founder and former CEO of Zipcar and author of Peer Inc., a book that describes what might happen with a collaborative economy and how might that change the way we live in the future. We would like to know what is Peers Inc. about?
Right. So Peers Inc. describes a new economic paradigm that's really transforming the way we build businesses, the way we work, and so ultimately how we shape economies. And it's a collaboration between platforms built by a large entity, an organization or a government, and the small around it. So I think of it as people and platforms. And examples that we would know today quickly are Airbnb and Uber. So there's a platform for participation that enables people, that gives the power of the corporation to the smaller entity. If I think about this new Peers Inc. paradigm, it has three components. There's excess capacity that is either within a company or outside that's now being harnessed and leveraged on this platform. Mm-hmm. And we've invited a large ecosystem of players to create the wholeness of the service or the wholeness of the activity. Mm-hmm. So it's really redefining the shape of companies and of governments. Because we used to think the company would do everything itself and it would be very clear what were the assets in the company, what were the assets outside of the company, what was public and private. And today what we're seeing more and more is companies that are interacting with many, many actors in their ecosystem, and it's together that they're creating this new service.
Okay, could you give me a few examples of how, besides the Airbnb, how it works?
So if you think about our smartphones, I think that's a really great example. So smartphones are I think of them as a platform for participation, and all of those apps that are on top of your smartphone are the satellite smaller entities. Mm-hmm. So the platform was built by Apple or by Android. Took hundreds of millions of dollars to build it, and to be able to build it at scale and distribute it into the hundreds of millions of people, that took a really gigantic company to do. But all of those apps are developed often by lone people, or maybe teams of 2 or 3, mm-hmm. and they're leveraging their life's experience and their ways of doing things. So now, only 7 years into the existence of smartphones, we have more than 1 million different apps that are now on top of that. So if we look at this collaboration, as I think of it, we have the benefits, we're getting the benefits of the big and the small. We're getting the benefits that are brought by the big entity that I think of as the Inc., that are delivering economies of scale, huge budgets, they're building very complicated things and making them simple, and we're getting the benefits of who I think of as the peers, the smaller app developers who are providing incredible localization, customization, and specialization.
Do you see this? This model working better for companies or activities that are in the digital realm, or is this something that could work, say, across the board in the economy?
We're seeing it in both physical objects and in the digital world, but it is true that in all cases, the requirement is that people are connected to the internet, because it's the internet and these platforms making use of it that make dealing with lots of small parts not painful. So it used to be really painful and expensive to deal with lots of small parts. Now mm-hmm. with technology, people are connected and we can make those transactions really fast.
How would this apply, let's say this platform model, how would it apply to government?
We can go to the open data movement. So we're seeing more of this, that governments collected data for their census or for my transit authority or for my weather or my land use patterns. And by opening up that data that the government's already paid for, mm-hmm. they own it, and it definitely is costing some money to put it onto these open APIs to make these platforms. But by doing that, they're enabling entrepreneurs, small and large, to make use of that data and extract new value and, importantly, come up with brand new ideas of what to do with it.
In your presentation, you mentioned that your father had one job in his whole life, you had 6 so far, and that your kids would probably have 6 at the same time. So you see platforms disrupting how we work and our relation with our employer, what we now know as employer. How do you see that playing out in the future?
I think that today we're enabling people to discover their passions at a faster pace, and we know that we always do a better job when we're working on something that we like, right? So imagine, there was a study that was done recently that said 85% of the people don't really like what they're doing, are kind of not inspired by their jobs, and 40% of the people really don't like their jobs. So what an incredible waste of talent. And if we had these mixed 6 jobs at the same time, it could be that I will still be doing 50% of my job will be my money job, and I'll be doing something that's boring and I don't like. But I'll be able to do something that I love on the other part. This new way, I think, is a way for societies at large to let people learn faster and let people uncover what they actually are inspired to do. Instead of having to do 100% of the time things that you really don't like, you can do that only a fraction of the time.
That certainly would be an upside. Well, Robin Chase, thank you very much for your time and your comments.
You're welcome.
Thank you.